Our lifestyle is pretty amazing. I mean, that's why we live here. There's just so much more freedom. We can get out fishing, go for a dive, head to hunting blocks and go hunting. All the access to all the ngahere, the moana is just amazing. It just feels like we are the pearl in the oyster.
Rakiura, or Stewart Island, is the third largest of Aotearoa's 600 plus islands. Separated from Bluff by the wild waters of Te Rakiura or the Fovo Strait, the one small settlement is not exactly a bustling metropolis, which suits the locals just fine. But to those used to the warmer temperatures of the north, it's an enigma, like a mysterious long-lost cousin.
I was expecting some ice, like glacier type temperature, but I've had some cold dives up north. I think it's manageable. We're in the summer. I've basically just stepped off the ferry. I've just taken 3 flights, a night over in Invercargill, shuttle, and then a ferry to get to Rakiura, Stewart Island.
It's a place so far off the beaten track, it's hard to know what to expect.
I've heard stories about people getting chased off this island, but I'm big and ugly enough to look after myself.
The Deep South is not somewhere you'd expect to find a big Maori community, but they're here. And even though they might be a few shades paler than their cousins up north, they've got a rich history here that they're working hard to hang on to.
When we were kids at school, 25% of our kids out of the 90 were Maori. I know some of the kids that were treated a little bit different than the other kids, and it was because we were Maori. I don't look Maori, but they knew that Russell Smith was my father that lived next to the school. Stewart Island, it's my home and it's my life. We've been right round the world, only once, but I've never struck a place that I thought would be better than here.
What is it about this island?
I suppose it's ancestral.
Yeah.
You know, we go back about 6 generations, and you know, there's a lot of ancestors buried on the place. This is sort of a inventory of the relatives of ours who settled the island. The first settler was Mohi Maraitai. He has a bit of a beard there. He was the last of the Ngāti Māmoe chiefs on the island. He's buried round at Ringaringa. But on Dad's father's side, his father was Sam Smith, and he was one of the children of Dennis and Urban Smith. And he came from Nantucket in America. Him and his wife, Kiori, and they lived on Bravo Island and had 14 children, and Dad's father was one of the children. I guess if you go back to the 1820s, French, English, Portuguese, American, they came into these southern oceans specifically for the seals. You know, life was atrocious for a lot of those men. And in this particular area, they held the absconders from the ships and fed them and looked after them until such time as the ship sailed. It didn't take long to figure out if they had a Maori wife, the Pakeha, they had total protection. This is a patu paora. This is made out of whalebone, and it came from a erosion of a site where the early Polynesians lived, which they carbon dated around about the late 12th to 13th century, before the main migration of the Maori. This is quite unique, actually. My wife picked it up on the beach, so it's been bowled around by the sea for a long time. And we thought that the grooves in the patu along there was where they would have used flax to wind it onto a handle. But according to one of the kaumatas, he should know that was the whakapapa. There are residents on the island, and the Maori issue is quite a problem with them. They're not true islanders. They've moved in as my years have gone by, and they haven't been really that interested in what's happened prior to that. I'd like to see that the new settlers read and understand historically how the island has progressed from where we started to where we are today,
It's fair to say island life at the bottom of the planet requires resilience. The winds can be brutal, and it's a long way to the nearest Bunnings. But for the 400 or so permanent residents of Rakiura, there's nowhere else they'd want to call home.
Welcome to the madhouse.
Welcome to the South Sea Hotel Pub Quiz. I will be guiding you on this intellectual journey we're about to partake in. Okay, so now
There's several different types of people that live here. We've got the people that come here just for a holiday and to escape and end up staying. Then you've got the real born and bred locals that are generational. And then, of course, those that are mana whenua, that whakapapa te here. I whakapapa here. I've lived here all my life. I've never been much of a city girl. Culturally, Rakiura, it's been very colonised, I suppose, is the best way to explain it. Because it was such a stronghold for settlers and whalers, people were taken over quite quickly and the original te reo Maori language was lost. Probably when I started high school was when I started to really feel the disconnection and feeling lost. I went to boarding school and I really wanted to learn te reo Māori then, and they only did French and Japanese, so I started a petition. And I got shut down and shamed for wanting to learn that, because that wasn't going to get me anywhere when I was a teenager, is what I was told. So for me personally, I felt quite lost for a long time and been searching for something to connect me to who I feel like I was and my language. Looking for a kaiko was quite a hard journey. Most of the teachers are based within the South Island, so to find the right person was something that I always struggled with. But coming across Whaia Pip, a light bulb moment just happened. I was like, this is the person to come back and help me revive our lost language and help anyone else on Rakiura that is looking for that. Nei ngā hau o mihi e pupui ana. I te taha o taku papa, ko hana nui, rawa ko raki o hua te maunga, ko te whanga a te wera te moana. Ko urua o kapuarangi rawa, ko taki timu te waka. Ko Ngāti Māmoe, Waitaha, Ngai Tahu te iwi. Ko Ngāti Hui Rapa te hapu. It's been so empowering learning te reo. It just opened up a whole nother doorway for me, and through the learning with others. I've got both of my sisters that are also on the journey. Both of my sisters have younger tamariki, so they're there, they're watching, they're learning, and the hope is they will become quite fluent, as will we, and then their mokopuna that will be their first language. That is the goal.
When you step off the ferry, the first thing that really strikes you is the clarity of the water. Rakiura is revered by divers as an underwater paradise, rich and abundant.
I've been dreaming of this for like 13 years. I used to be a scuba dive instructor, and we had 2 DVDs in the shop that just played constantly, and one of them was here. So I'm a happy, happy boy.
Sharks still there. Sharks and stingrays have electroreception. They don't need to see or feel or hear or smell their prey. They can pick up the tiny amount of electricity that your brain fires out, or like a seal's brain fires out. So if they're in real dark or murky water, they can just zero in feeling for that little tiny amount of electricity. You'll be all right. Like, people have been diving here for, 40, 50 odd years. No one's been eaten.
I'm just afraid.
I've been on Stewart Island for 5 years now. Pretty fresh in terms of being an islander. Probably got another 25 years till I'm considered a local.
What was the big draw down here?
It's one of the only spots in New Zealand I've never been. And job popped up for a nature guide, which was, my cup of tea. And then, after diving around these waters for 2 years, me and my good mate Ollie decided to just bite the bullet and try and start up a snorkel tour. That's Rakiura Island in the background, Ulva Island over here. It's a pest and predator-free bird sanctuary. And the 3 complete marine reserves will all join up to Ulva Island, so it's quite cool to have protected area of land and ocean right beside each other, because it makes like perfect environment for animals that use both the sea and the land, like sea lions, the penguins and the shags.
One thing that struck me when I got here was the level of protection for the water in and around Stewart Island. The inland waterway here, Te Whakaatearoa, Patterson Inlet, it's a Mataitai Marine Reserve, and in short, there's no commercial fishing in here, and all of the recreational limits that you'd observe outside of Patterson Inlet have been halved in here. It's really, really good having this level of protection here. But you'll notice that it's almost not needed, because a lot of people that come down here, they use this area as a food basket, So when we're going out, we're limiting our catch, and we're hopping spots as well.
The main sort of thing for it wanting to work on the water, in the water, was to try and do it
Sustainably.
Not just sustainably, but for the betterment. Get people out, show them how healthy it is down here, why it's as healthy as it is, and just try and maybe just promote a little bit of positive thought. When they go home, they might try and look after the moana where they live.
13 years in the making, been dreaming about coming here. It was good. I've seen YouTube videos of spots like that where there's just rocks covered in pole. It's always good to see it with your own eyes. I'd never seen bottom topography like that before. Just looked like I was in a foreign planet, basically. An alien town. It's pretty cool. Pretty dope. Real clear. And I'm pretty warm, so I'm happy about that.
If the moana is the pearl of Rakiura, then the ngahere is her crown jewel. Between the main island and the 50 or so smaller islands dotted in the surrounding waters, Rakiura is made up of more than 85% national forest.
This is the lanternberry. It's got a little white ball which goes into a beautiful dewdrop flower. And I was always told that the moonlight could shine through these little lanterns and show the fairies where to go in the middle of the night. He will try everything in your bag, so just be careful.
I feel like you're going to stab me.
He will. Because Ulva Island is predator-free and one of the earliest native reserves, it's always been a haven for rare and endangered species, so it's a pretty special place.
This one looks
This
like
is just
Mumble
a
off Happy
baby.
Feet.
This is a baby. Yeah,
Yeah.
hear the high-pitched call?
Is that coming from this one?
Yeah.
You seem like you're the bird lady to me.
Yes. Yes, it's very catching, and you know, we can welcome you to the dark side anytime you want. So,
I think a good place to start would be why this particular island is special to you.
my name's Ulva, and I was named after this island, and we believe that this island was named after an Ulva Island in Scotland. Because a lot of the early settlers were Scottish, sealers and whalers that came here and moved in with the friendly wahine. All my tupuna come from Rakiura, both mum and dad's side of the family. My grandmother, her familiarity with the bush medicine was legendary. You're just taken into the bush and you had to make up this concoction for some ailment. What I have received from my grandparents is the love of our forest. It's still a magical place. This is a juvenile remu. They grow to 30 metres. This is the reason we had over 30 sawmills in the Aotearoa, Patterson, in the 1800s, early 1900s. They were cutting down the remu.
There's no fights, nothing over here, no battles. No, like someone got slayed and like dragged out to sea.
No.
I was looking up underbelly of Stewart Island. There wasn't any. There's like one recorded murder back in 1921 or something.
That's right. Right, you need to see this one here, Troy. This is called bushman's paper.
Oh.
It's used if you're in the bush and you need to go. This
Nice
is
and
what
soft.
you use. Yes, and it's biodegradable and 4-ply.
One thing I've noticed these last few days is just how friendly everyone is down here. Everyone's like, oh, those guys are going to scare you away. They're savages down there. But everyone's been really
I don't think so.
hospitable and lovely down here.
We're reasonably pale down here. It's like Maori culture tours and things are all up north. It's more to do with the
Nature.
scenic environment and conservation nature.
Your
This
connection
part
to
of
the
us,
earth.
Yes.
I feel
it
like
is.
at the essence of Māori, that's what Māori's all
Absolutely.
about as well.
Thank you.
So
Absolutely.
you're as Māori as any Māori, even though you're very white down here.
We don't get the sun as much as you do, I think.
Island life is centred around the moana, and as long as you can get out on the water, you'll never go hungry. It's a kai moana lover's dream.
Oh, that's a big red.
Cold water produces the sweetest fish, and Rakiura has plenty of both.
Easiest place is to put the stick down on the ground. Just keep going until you feel it go slack, then pull it up.
Pull it up a bit.
Yeah.
Stewart Island has been known for its blue cod.
Heaps of bites.
What you got to do is you got to be a wee bit smarter than the blue cod.
How do I do that?
Well, they're not that smart, blue cod, because we normally catch them.
All right, I'll be faster this time and I'll yank it
Yeah.
harder.
And now with the protection of the waters, fish populations are thriving.
Juice. Yeah. I'd have been hand lining since I was 12, I reckon. And it definitely wasn't like that. Chuck it in and 20 seconds later you got a blue cod. And it was like that constantly. Ended up with more blue cod than you could eat in like a week, I reckon. They're delicious.
It's my final day here on Rakiura, and I've definitely eaten my fair share of kai moana. But there's one more Southland delicacy I've yet to try.
So these are some titi wings that I've been working on drying out. And I just like to use all of the product of the titi, so hardly anything gets wasted from the bird. So this is something that I came up with last year, and so far it's turned out really well when it comes to drying them out, but I haven't quite worked out exactly what they will turn into. Not the prettiest things to prepare, but they taste delicious. The titi harvest is something that happens annually, where those that whakapapa back to Rakiura go and harvest titi. It's a cultural harvest. These ones are just boiled in a good old boil up. So these are salted, so they're in a bucket. And done a couple of roasties as well. I think I was 6 when I first went to Kahuariki, which is Ernest Island. My first experience was a very long boat ride. And then when we finally got there, we were met by other whānau that were there who gave us hot chocolate and looked after us. We stayed in a tiny little whare, but it was warm and cosy. And we got to go out and take turns with Dad, and I just remember watching him chase after Titi, the chicks, and sitting in the pluck hole with him, watching him pluck muttonbirds, and just being around a lot of people, really in touch with nature. Mā wai tuku karakia?
E rongo ho mana tipu, hei whakakita tīnana, hei whakoro, hui hui.
Tai ki e.
Kia ora.
Haere mai ki te pai.
I've always been fascinated with like harvesting and stuff. Like, how do you actually harvest them? Do you like pull them out of a tree or?
There's 2 different ways to bird. At the start of the season, some people do the nanau, which is where they'll use a hook or a branch, and they use it to feel where the bird is in their burrow. You've got to have really good patience for that, which doesn't really run in my whānau. So we usually go for the ramatiti, so the torching. So we'll go, all of us together with head torches on, and they come out in the wind and the rain.
So you like to go over there when it's quite stormy or something?
Yeah. Yep.
Greedy as eh?
Yeah.
So why is that? Just the fat content?
Just their fats, yeah. They're full of omega 3 and 6 fats, so they're really good for you, the fat. We keep the fat too, as I mentioned. They make great chips and donuts.
What makes good donuts?
The fat, you can make up a donut mixture and cook it in, and it tastes a bit like titi, but man, it's so delicious.
Have you tried every which way to cook muttonbird, like unconventional ways? Like in a salad, stir fry?
I reckon probably my most favourite way to have it is at the Muttonbird Island itself, cooked outside on an open fire. But we also keep the hearts, so quite often I'll make a stew and we'll use bunui. Yeah, titi hearts. They taste just like the bird itself, but it's got really quite a muttony flavour. Yeah, they're a bit of a delicacy like kina.
That's good. It's like a boil-up.
Yeah.
Yo.
After so many years dreaming about Rakiura, it definitely hasn't disappointed. But before I begin the long trip back up north, the crystal clear waters are calling me one last time.
It is now nearly 9 o'clock and we're just going out for a dive, so she's probably the latest dive I've ever done. It got dark at 10:30 last night, so I think you're right.
I didn't know anything about Stewart Island, really. I'd heard about these dinosaur-type seafood. The power was like dinner plates. We've got to know some real cool characters. Everyone down here is connected by the sea. They just want to take care of it. In the Mātaita, you're allowed to take half of what you're normally allowed to take, but they won't even take that. They might just take 1 or 2 paua. That's just how they are. Everything is interconnected. The land here, with all these sanctuaries of birds out there, with the moana,
It's just an ecosystem, so they look after every little aspect of it in order for the whole thing to thrive.
Couple of powers, couple of kitters. Mean, bro. Definitely the biggest kitters I've ever seen in my life.
It feels like you're intertwined and interconnected with Papatūānuku, with Tangaroa, you know, and you're not reliant on supermarkets, you're not reliant on anything but the earth and the sea.